what a coincidence that when the people of Israel, God's chosen people, go into Canaan, the promised land, promised way back when to Abraham, right?
Right.
The freaking Nephilim are waiting.
Right.
Of all the places in the whole freaking planet, for there to be a secondary, like, rising of the Nephilim. It just so happens that it's in the promised land that God said, I'll give to my people, right?
Dude.
They're waiting. They're there inhabiting because Satan's trying to hold it down.
Yeah.
Satan's trying to make sure that God's not going to fulfill his word to his people.
That's crazy.
How crazy is that? So, extrapolate that out to today, where, like, there's still war over that territory, right?
Yeah, man. And it just gets more and more confusing to me when we go into that. Okay, but hang on. Okay.
But that's why we're here.
Let's wrap this up on this Nephilim stuff because, unless you have
what was your question?
Well, yeah, why did it dwindle? And then, but it also makes sense why when we read about, like, the time of Jesus, like, that they're just, like, walking everywhere still, they're wearing sandals, right? It's like humanity didn't progress it did from like pre-Noah times, right? It didn't progress like that anymore, right? So that's the stuff I was looking like. Why didn't it progress?
Well, arguably it progressed like crazy pre-Noah because the fallen angels made an incursion into human history, right?
Right.
So pre-Noah though, dude, this is crazy. Between Adam and Noah, there's no mention of, like, God amongst mankind.
Right.
Choosing people, talking to people, revealing himself, nothing. It literally just says that Noah was the only pure one in his generation.
Yeah.
And other translations for the word, like, pure, are untainted. So
yeah, it's a blood thing.
You could make the argument that him and his family are possibly, like, the only ones that haven't been altered genetically.
Yeah.
Right. So when God comes back after, like, I don't want to say he abandoned the earth, but there's no mention of him working in mankind from Adam to freaking Noah, right? So when he comes back and he's like, I'm being sarcastic here. Oh no, what's going on? Right? I need to stop this.
Right.
I should start over with, like, literally there's only one dude left.
There's one dude, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Crazy.
So he steps in, reveals himself to Noah. Noah didn't know who God was.
Right.
How do you know who God is? Unless God reveals himself to you. Abraham didn't know who God was.
Right.
God revealed himself to Abraham.
Right.
Moses didn't know who freaking God was. God revealed himself to him, right? So God reveals himself to Noah.
Smile so much.
It's good. God reveals himself to Noah. Noah's like, oh, crap. There's this thing that just appeared, right? And he's like, hey, I'm going to wipe everything out. I'm going to take you and your family. I'm going to save you guys, right? So Noah starts building a boat, blah, blah, blah. Everybody gets wiped out. Starts all over, okay? The Nephilim post-Noah, it seems like they started reproducing. They started getting some traction again, right?
Right, yeah.
But they settle in Canaan to block God's promise from being fulfilled to his people, that they'll inherit that land. That was strategic from Satan's perspective.
Crazy.
Freaking crazy.
Wow.
And what a coincidence that, like, God takes his people to the gates and he's like, I will go before you and give you this land. And they're like, no, they've got big grapes. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, yeah, but I'm here. Like, I'm going to go before you.
That's so wild to me, man. With everything that they've been through, to...
Still doubt.
Man.
Not only still doubt, Dennis. Every time they doubt.
I have a hard time with that.
Every time they doubt, they start worshiping the gods of Egypt.
Yeah, dude. Like right
every
away.
time. Instantly. Yeah. Oh no, we would have been better off in Egypt. At least we had fish.
Right. It was always something.
You know what I mean? So God gets pissed off, sends them in the wilderness to die off. That generation dies off. Yeah. So the Nephilim, they're reproducing for another 40 years.
Yeah.
They're multiplying while Israel's dying. So when Caleb and Joshua and these guys are about to go in the second time around, right? There's arguably less of them and more of the Nephilim.
Right.
So it took even more faith for them to go in and slaughter these guys. But it didn't matter because God goes before them. They're enabled to do those things. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I think that the Nephilim weren't successful the second time around, because this time God does intervene, and he doesn't let it just run rampant from Adam to Noah. He intervenes. You know what I'm saying? And those are all of the instances that people will throw shade at the Bible where they're like, oh my God, you guys worship a psychopath and a megalomaniac. He wipes out and a genocidal
they need to know the whole
psychopath.
Story, man. Yeah, they don't know.
They wipe out men, women, children, old ladies, you know?
Right.
Only of the Nephilim tribes.
Right.
Only of the Nephilim tribes.
Right.
And in so doing, you know what happens if they don't wipe them out and they get a foothold again and the whole cycle repeats? God's going to wipe out the planet again.
Yeah.
He's going to have to kill everybody all over again because he's not going to let that continue.
Right.
He stopped it once. He'll stop it again.
Sure.
Right. So it's actually a means of grace that God,
for sure.
that God actually goes in and wipes out the Nephilim, stops that evil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So then
that's why, Dennis, to answer your question, that's why I don't think we advanced technologically post-flood the same way we did pre-flood, is because God uprooted and annihilated those superhuman tribes.
Okay, so then here's another question. So the fact that we are advancing so quickly now, since the Industrial Revolution, right, until now, does that mean that there's a resurgence now of the demonic and and Nephilim? It's just maybe in a different way, so they're hidden more. Yeah, they're they're attacking differently, but they're growing again. Because I mean, I still don't know how a computer works. I think it's demonic.
Computers are demonic.
I have my computer science degree, okay?
Yeah. And from ITT Tech.
I wish. DeVry University.
Oh my God.
University.
Accredited.
My friend. Yes.
Accredited.
Yes.
I don't think I think humans will naturally progress in technology and knowledge, right? But
why did it take so long to go from like Noah's time? Let's say the entrance into Canaan, that time when they wiped out at least the Nephilim, to the Industrial Revolution.
Well, listen, bro, Israel wasn't, and the people in Canaan weren't the only humans on the planet.
Right.
The Aztec, there was a ton of civilizations in
Sumerians
South America.
Or something.
There was other civilizations in Africa. There was other civilizations in China.
The
world was still going on.
Yeah.
We just have this like zoomed in telescopic focus on Israel, Canaan, and what's going on with God's people.
Point. Yeah.
Because that's what the Bible is about. The Bible is only about God's work with his people in human history.
Right.
It doesn't care about China. It doesn't care about America, South America, only his people. Those are his chosen allotment.